So we're recording this on StreamYard. We were just backstage, and Latrice was like, "It's the first episode. Let's go!"
Let's go.
So here we are. Welcome to the Be Ready podcast. And so this is a space for adults who care about kids, about the educational well-being of kids, to learn with us. Two people who are parents, who are educators, and who are trying to bridge the gap between school, family, and community by just being raw and sharing our experiences. So from this podcast, you can gain insights on from our successes, from our failures, and trying to support our kids academically at home so that when they get to school, they can be ready and just do well in the learning environment. So we'll take on social media challenges, we'll do field trips, we will do science experiments, just trying to make learning fun. Post it on our page. We'll share in the podcast. We'll bring on some guest speakers. Although we're educators, we're not here because we know it all. The more so here because we want to like build community with other people who are walking the walk, who are sharing this journey. So we figured we'd do this first episode to just give people a chance to get to know us. So Latrice, what brought you to this space tonight?
All right. So what brought me to this space was, of course, like you said, just being an educator and a mom. I'm just trying to figure it all out, realizing that it's okay not to have all the answers, even as an educator. Now, we have to understand that we don't have to have all the answers, and that it's okay to seek support, not only be support, but to seek support as well.
That's good.
So that is one thing that brought me here to this podcast, but just also hearing the concerns of parents all around me. You know, I get questions all the time from my sister. I know you've come to me as well. Some other family members, cousins that, call on me and, they have some concerns about their younger children and about the educational well-being of their kids.
Yeah.
School. And we know we have a lot of factors that have contributed to, some things and some concerns that we have. One being, COVID, with the kids being out for almost 2 years and, being behind in education and where that goes. And so that's a genuine concern. But there's a lot of other factors that we're going to be discussing here as we go along with our journey in this podcast. And I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so another little fun fact about us is we are related. So I'm married to Latrice's brother, Kevin. We've been married for 7 years this year in September. But I've known Latrice for like 10 years, and for 10 years we've been having these conversations off camera. And so we're like, you know what? We can't be the only people going through this. So let's just bring other people in the combo.
Right.
So for me, I have a 5-year-old and I have a almost 2-year-old. And I've been in education for 18 years, but I taught middle school and high school history. So I got a doctorate in education, but then I had these little people and I was like,
right.
The first question I had was like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like my mom, she was like really into education. So she was like a reader, right? So I knew, okay, like you gotta read to them, right? And I like to read, so that was cool. That was no big thing. But then beyond that, it's like, okay, what should they be doing at what stage? And also, like, I want kids to be kids. I'm not crazy about like the quizzing kids with flashcards every night, or like I want them to like organically want to learn and have fun with learning and just kind of like weave it into their everyday lives and not make it like a thing, like a punishment. But even as an educator, I didn't know what the heck to do. Right. So like that's one thing. And then the other thing is I don't always feel like I have time to do it. Even now. Even with, knowing some strategies and stuff, it's like, okay, as a working mom, I'm on 3 shifts. You got the morning shift where we trying to get everybody up, get them fed, get them to school on time, usually with like 30 seconds to spare. And then I'm at work, right?
Right.
Then after work, I'm picking them up. Okay, let's make sure everybody's fed. We got homework. Are they clean? Then it's
Mhm.
time to go to bed. I might be trying to read a book with like one eye open.
Yep.
So just like where do you fit it in? But the thing is, if you don't fit it in, so much time will pass. And then you'll realize, like, oh man, my kid has these gaps here, and my kid
Mhm.
has these gaps there. So even though I be feeling like it's killing me, I'm like, I got to get it in. So
Right.
that's why we wanted to kind of come together with other people and talk about like what are some fun ways that
Mhm.
you can that us parents or mentors, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, mentors, whoever can like squeeze it in, make that educational environment fun and a part of your life so it's feasible and your kids see the benefit. So
Yes.
that's what we thinking.
Yes.
Um I also want to say another thing I don't have time for is to keep my plants alive. So if anybody is able to see the background, I know that this plant is kind of sad and this one is dead, but don't worry about them. I'm not gonna promise that I'm gonna have live plants in here by the second episode, but I might find time by like the third or fourth episode to either bring those back to life or to replace them. But I think
Listen.
it's perfect because it's an
Yes.
example of how I ain't
Real
got
life.
time to keep everybody and everything
Real
alive.
life.
And I'm gonna have to prioritize. And
Okay.
so recently my plants had to die. I love them, but it is what it is. So there's a little bit about me.
That's
So,
right.
but we thought that's what we could do this first episode is ask some questions of each
Yes.
other, some surprise questions,
Mhm.
so that people could just get to know us. So, Latrice, are you ready for your first question?
I
All right.
am.
Are you nervous about what questions I'm going to ask
I
you?
am.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit nervous too, only
Okay.
because I did not fully prepare for these questions. So I'm gonna tell you all what I did is I have some on Google and I'm just gonna pick. So, but there is one
Okay.
question. Okay, before I go off my little list here, there is one question I like to ask people.
Okay.
What is your favorite sound?
That is a good question. I've never been asked that question before.
Mhm.
My favorite sound would probably be and I just recently learned this too, like a certain type of like it's like therapy almost. Like there's like a certain sound that you can like with certain people who are dealing with certain issues, like there's certain like frequencies that you can hear that actually calm you down.
Mm.
And I noticed that I navigate towards certain songs. Like I am a definitely
Okay.
neo soul. Like, of course, worship is that's what I love to do. But there is a certain sound in songs that I typically gravitate towards. So I noticed that like that sound is very much so in artists like Lucky Day
Mhm.
or artists like Snow Allegra. They all have
Mm.
that same sound and it's
You
very
want to
soothing.
vibe?
Yes, listen, okay, just a vibe. So I was driving home by myself the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was just like this calming sound, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like feed your soul, you know?
Okay, so
That's a
like
great
music is
question.
big for you.
Music is definitely big for me.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. All right. Cool.
All right, is it my turn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Let's go
yay,
for
we're
it.
back. Okay, now yes. All right, so first question for you. Um, let's say, did you always know that you wanted to be in the education space?
Oh, hell no. So I don't know I really don't am not sure what I want to do when I grow up still. So there's that.
Where's the lie?
But no, so like when I went to college, I think I changed my major like maybe 3 times. I
Hmm.
was doing political science, then I was doing international relations, then I was doing economics, and then I took like a micro and macroeconomics class, and I was like, nope, not doing that anymore. So I kind of like went back and forth between those. But what is at the root of what I wanted to do was to always use my career to kind of like help even the playing field, to help people in
Ah,
historically underserved
okay.
countries, communities, whatever,
Mhm.
to get where they trying to go in life,
Mhm.
basically. So that's kind of always been like who I am as a person, but like I've never been ultra picky about how that happens. I went into education because I was reading A Purpose Driven Life, um like
Mhm.
my sophomore year of college, and I felt called to go into education, so I did. But it was hard. Like I would say at
Mhm.
least definitely within my first year, I was like, did I hear right?
Okay. Did you dial the right number, Lord?
Yeah, no, I think you did. One of us got something confused. I'm not fully sure which one. Um, so I've done a lot of things in education. That's what I like about it. Like sponsor clubs, I taught, I coached, I got to travel internationally with education, and I've just had different jobs. So now I still work in education, but I'm not an educator anymore. I
Right.
don't teach
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
I just help build partnerships around education. Um so no, I didn't always want to be in education, to the
That's good.
question. Answer your question. But I
Yay.
like it.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So now I gotta ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you tell your 18-year-old self if you could talk to her today?
Girl. This one answer, girl. But but this is something that I think about quite often as I reflect,
Mhm.
on a lot of things. I would say don't be afraid. Take more
Okay.
risks. Take more risks and calculated risks, not just any risk, but calculated risk. Like if you see something that you want, just go for it and don't be afraid.
I love that.
Hmm.
I saw something recently along those same lines
Hmm.
where people were like giving advice to like their younger selves or whatever. And it was like define your own version of fun. And it
Ooh,
was like, don't get caught up in thinking that fun is other people's definition. Like,
correct.
you know, whatever. Like maybe your fun is reading books, maybe your
Hmm.
fun is going to a party, whatever. But I think so often as young people, you just define your fun by what people say is fun or what you should be
What
doing
they
at that
the
age, and not really,
expectation.
yeah, and not
Yes.
really like who you are, figuring out what is fun to you. So your comment just kind of
Excuse me.
reminded me of that. I was like, oh, that's a cool little piece of advice.
Yes. All right. Hmm.
What you got for
Um.
me?
All right. So I'm trying to do like a educator question and then like a mainstream question,
Okay.
right? All right. What is your favorite thing to do for self care? She's like, wait, what? What's self care?
Right. I mean, that's really where I'm at with it.
Yes.
Listen, because I'm gonna show this picture because as
Woo. Woo, Lord.
do you hear the beating on my door as we're like having this conversation?
IRL.
Listen, you can hear beating and clawing on the door. You hear people trying to turn the knobs. I hear
Oh no.
this
Look
is
at
literally
that.
my husband sent me. Kevin sent me this picture. This is my child trying to break into the office while I'm trying to do this podcast. They're trying to run a coup on me.
Listen, not the
So,
cool.
right. So I would say there's two things. One,
Hmm.
sleep.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Look.
So there's sleep. There's tea. I love there's one I like now. It's called like Bengal Spice or something like that.
Mm.
But so sleep, tea, and like talking. So that's my like time to talk to people is when I'm in the car driving. So I'll like call one of my sisters or something
Mhm.
like that. And just like that's my thing. I enjoy it.
Yes, good. Yes, that's important. We got to get good about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, so question for you.
Okay.
What is your greatest professional achievement?
Ooh, ha. That was what I had for you too. So I have several. I'm gonna have to narrow it down because there's like at least three that I know. Well, one automatically comes to mind, and as I'm talking, I see the gift that this particular student gave to me.
Oh,
So I'm not gonna say the name, of course, but there was a student that I had about 10 years ago. And this particular student was, to say the least, a challenge when they arrived. Okay.
okay.
They were in kindergarten. I cannot believe this. They will be 16 years old this year, maybe 17,
Okay.
which is crazy to talk about. Um, but this particular student, it, just to know, and I'm so glad we have this platform because we're going to talk about this, like being in the right spaces and making sure, praying that your children are in the right spaces with the right educator, with the right teacher.
Yeah.
Because if that student had gone anywhere else, I'm just afraid of what may have happened,
Yeah.
or what he may have been labeled with, instead of actually looking to see what's going on, building that relationship. But the greatest achievement was just building the relationship with this student and helping them to just like navigate kindergarten, to navigate their behavior plan, to make sure that they know that they aren't who what people say they are. They try to tell you they are.
Yeah.
Because of
That's
that,
real.
it has I don't measure it by like like rewards and stuff like that. The reward I get is 7 years later the parent is emailing me or Facebook messaging me saying, we are still talking about you. We miss you so much, and
Wow.
you have made the most impact of my life. So every time this student talks about you or their favorite teacher, they still talk about you. That to me is success.
That's what's up.
What I
seven
look
years
for.
later. That's special.
Hmm.
That's really special.
Yes. What about you? I'm gonna ask that question back to you.
Um, I would say something similar along
Okay.
the lines of still having relationships with some of my students. I
Yes.
think it's the greatest success, especially I think about like the different things that I like, how my mindset about education has like grown over
Hmm.
the years, and how like when I first started, um it was a lot about like, why is my child at the door talking about it's daddy? Stop.
No, he didn't.
I know what you sound like. I'm so distracted right now. Why do these people do this to me?
I'm done. Not it's dead.
It's daddy. It's not.
It's not though.
Anyway,
Give that baby a cookie for effort.
no, 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 no.
He tried
So
it.
he gets a bath. That's what he can get.
Winner.
Um, so it's the relationships for me, because honestly, like I can't remember a lot of what has happened along my career,
Mhm.
but I have this drawer that I'm kind of like looking through it now, because I have like a bunch of pictures and notes that like students or colleagues have written me over the years.
Yes.
And when I get around to it, I intend on putting them up in my office for those
Ah,
days that I need a little to keep going.
yes.
So I feel like if that's what I look to for the to keep going, that is probably what I feel is like my greatest success. Not necessarily an award or whatever, but like the relationships that I built along the way, especially because I know me. Like there have been a couple of years where I wouldn't have wanted to be in my class.
Um,
And
mm,
then there are, then there are times when I feel like, man, I wish I could have another shot, because now I know this, and this,
yeah.
so just to know that like the grace that I've been extended by students, that they still were able to take something from me or allow me to still be a part of this phase in their life, just as I've grown as a person and as a teacher means a lot to me.
I love that. I
That
love
was a
it.
trip, honey.
Woo!
There was this one year where this teacher, a teacher friend of mine, she was
Mhm.
like, so and so, talking about a student, we'll just call him Doug.
Okay.
Doug was like, this is before I was married, you don't know what version of Miss Sims you're gonna get when you from day to day. And I was like,
And do.
that's kind of true. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But I was
Yes.
going through some stuff that year, I
Yeah.
was a little young, but whatever. It was not
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, so just the grace and the relationships, that's the main thing.
Amen. Yes, the grace is sufficient.
All
Yes.
right, let me see. Let me scroll down and see for these questions. There's a section that says juicy questions.
Oh, come on,
I'm
Juicy.
just playing. Um, what's your favorite holiday movie?
Oh, you know what? My favorite holiday movie used to be The Preacher's Wife.
Yeah.
And I think that changed because ever since The Best Man Holiday came out,
It's so sad for me.
it's really sad, but I love it. I still love it. It's just the whole idea of just friendship and community and like the strength of friendship. That's what the themes that I take away from it. Yes, it's very sad,
Okay.
but just the strength, because even after all those obstacles, they were still able to come together and still overcome so much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say Preacher's Wife is still definitely top three.
Yeah, it's some stuff that's just nostalgic.
Hmm.
Preacher's Wife is at my top, is in my top too, but yeah.
Hmm. So what would is that
Especially
number
the
one?
soundtrack.
You said who?
It's the soundtrack to the
Oh,
Preacher's Wife
listen,
for
it's the
me. It's the
soundtrack for
soundtrack.
me. Come
Yeah.
on, Richard Smallwood. He did his thing.
Oh, I didn't know that was him.
That was all Richard Smallwood. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Big fan of Mr. Smallwood. Yes. But what was your is that number one or number two?
What you mean?
The movie, Preacher's Wife.
For me?
Yeah.
I'll probably say number two.
Number
I
two.
like This Christmas.
That is a great movie. That's
Yeah.
my mom's favorite.
I know.
Yes, you know. Yes. But definitely for a long time it was Home Alone.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you let that slide? Definitely. But the first one, I don't really care for all the
No,
others.
the subsequent ones they can put to rest. Some things
Yeah,
just
it's just the
better
first
left.
one.
Yes. It's the
Yeah.
original. Mm-hmm. All right. Is it my go?
Yep. How many more
All
questions you have?
I still have 3 more questions.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah, because I threw in some others.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. What was the biggest moment that you would say you have learned being in the education space?
Um, that schools and teachers, I don't want to blame teachers because a lot of the decisions that they have to make aren't really their decisions.
Mhm.
So I'll just say schools, and you can pick who you want to pick within that
The powers
system.
that be.
Yes. But I would say that they need, I don't even know how to say this, but
Mhm.
so I'll just tell you the story.
Okay.
So I was teaching and I was at this school, and it was pretty like mixed, like racially, socioeconomic demographics, like a very mixed place. It was kind of cool, to be honest. And then around 2008, like people started saying like the demographics are changing. These kids can't do this, these kids can't do that. And as a new teacher, I kind of bought into it, like, yeah, man, these kids not doing what I thought they was gonna do, blah blah blah. But I noticed they were like, this community XYZ, these parents XYZ. And why I bring up the year is because, right, that's around the same time as we were having the recession, right? So people are losing jobs, they're not having as much money. So really, the kids are not coming to school as prepared, maybe for school, as
Right.
they were before.
Mhm.
And the school is becoming a little bit more black and brown.
Mm.
Um, and during that time, like through some work that I was doing in graduate school, I realized, long story short, that like the kids and the families were not the problem, that we were the problem. The school was the
Oh.
problem. And
Oh.
it, for me, it was like, okay, like if what you're doing, if they're not achieving or performing how you want them to perform, it's not their problem, it's your problem. So like how, I don't want to
How can
say
you
it's
overcome?
totally teachers' problem, because I think it's
Mhm.
something that we all share across the
Mhm.
home and across the school.
100%.
But I do think that there are some classrooms and some teachers who could take a different approach. Like if the client is not responding how I want the client to respond, what do I need to do in order to get the result that I want to get? And where I was at that time, I wasn't seeing any of that ownership of
Mm.
like teachers or classrooms or school system or anything. It was just like the kids and their parents are the problem. Not considering like the societal things like a recession,
Mhm.
systemic racism, oppression, like all these things that are impacting families and the way kids show up in the classroom. And it
100%.
was really before we started to talk about like mental health in the classroom and how trauma impacts the brain and what that looks like when it shows up in the classroom. So it was before people started talking about all that stuff, really. But my biggest, that was your question, right? Like my biggest lesson or aha or
Yeah.
whatever was just
Mhm.
like, oh, like we, right? Because I was in the classroom then, like we could do more.
Mhm.
We are part of the problem and we
Mhm.
need to evolve
Mhm.
if we want to see what we want to see out of these kids.
Mm.
Yeah. And I used to think too, like I used to have this saying that sometimes I feel like um more kids are killed in a classroom um than by the police. Right. And I know
Mm.
that's bold and it
That's
might,
a
some
bold
people will strongly
statement.
disagree. But
Mm.
um, but like dreams die in the
Yeah.
classroom. The
Yes.
school to prison
Yes.
pipeline is real in the
Uh-huh.
classroom. And it doesn't start in middle school or high school. Like it
Mhm.
starts way before that. And I think that's what our work aims to do, is just help parents to help their kids be ready so that
Mhm.
they're less impacted by those things.
That's true. Now, do you think that there is considering the time frame, because there's a drastic difference in the experiences now than it was back then? Do you think that maybe teachers can overly take responsibility, like take too much ownership in that space?
What do you mean?
Like if like they like for example, like you said, because I completely and totally agree with you as far as like teachers need to take ownership, because you hear the complaints, you hear all of that stuff. Now, do you think that maybe the teacher might be doing that a little too much? As far as, is it possible that the teacher could possibly take on too much ownership in that space where you know a lot of it was beyond their control, but they still took on that responsibility and that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
do think so. That's why I like hesitate to say it,
Mhm.
because I feel like there's responsibility on both ends with the
Uh-huh.
schools and with the families. And I
100.
don't mean to like alleviate one or the other and blame everything on teachers,
Mhm.
because also I feel like we hold teachers accountable, but we don't think about what the pressures that teachers are under, right? Like
Yes.
personally or professionally.
Right.
So I think both of, and the control that they have. And that's part of the reason why I left the classroom, is because I felt
Mm.
like, man, I want to do all these things with my
But you can't.
kids, but I
Mhm.
can't,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm bound
Hands are
to
tied.
this,
Mhm.
right, this
Mhm.
curriculum, yada, yada, yada.
Mhm.
And so I just felt so far away from being able to make change that
Mhm.
it was discouraging for me.
Oh,
And, and
girl.
that's why I left the
Woo.
classroom.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
don't need to blame everything on teachers.
Mm.
But that's why I mentioned, like, we'll just say school
Okay.
as the big umbrella.
Yeah.
I think there are some things that we could do differently
Hmm.
on that end in order to engage kids a little bit
Yeah.
differently.
We may have to even add that in there as far as like even when we go up as far as how does that go? Because what is administration having to go through? Because
Yeah,
all that stuff passes down.
it
So it
trickles
goes from
down.
the powers that be to the administrators to the teachers down to the students. And then, you know, so we definitely have to add that conversation piece in there as well. And maybe
Hmm.
even bring on some guest administrators.
Yeah, we should. We should.
Hmm.
We
Yes.
should.
All right. I think it's your turn.
Okay, so I'm asking you one more question.
Okay.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Good question. So, all these years, funny story, I thought I was an extrovert
Okay,
because I think I have taught myself to be an extrovert. But
that's
looking more, yeah,
interesting.
it's very interesting. And I've just learned this in like the last 3 years or so that I am not an extrovert at all. I just know how to navigate in those spaces. I get a lot of my energy and my restoration from spending time alone.
Mm-hmm.
I love to reflect. I like to read. I like to think. I am a big thinker. When I took one of those like personality tests,
Yeah.
like with the I what is the INTJ thingy,
Mm-hmm.
INTP, like it said that I was one of the like the groups that like to think like an analyzer. You just like to process things and come up with strategies and how to work. um but that I learned a lot about myself in like the last 3 years, that my social battery is what gave it away.
Oh yes.
And so when I would always think that something was wrong with me because I'm just like, okay, I'm just tired of people. I can't. I'm ready to go home. Like no, but
Yeah.
that wasn't it. It was just that my social battery was just kind of like blinking. You need to put your charger on, okay? Just like on a cell phone, that was the big indicator for me, and that's what gave it away.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about you?
Introvert or extrovert? Oh, introvert all the way.
Yes, it's like I can be extrovert with around certain people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely like I just took like this poll, this one of them little personality career tests, whatever. It said that I'm a relator. Like that's one of my five top
Yes.
strengths, but it's about like preferring like a few close friendships or a
Yes.
few close relationships versus like a whole bunch of associates.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like people, I can
Mm-hmm.
talk to people, but I be tired,
Meaningful.
okay?
Hmm.
Auntie be
Okay.
needing to like pull it back. So that social battery, like
Hmm.
I relate to that as
Hmm.
well because it's just tick, 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 tick. It gets lower and I be ready to go.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I mean, my friends will tell you that too. Even like my
Yeah.
best friends, we'll
Hmm.
go on a vacation together, but at some point, Deshaun will be in a corner with a magazine or a book
Yes.
or something because I just need to
I
like
need to recharge.
pull back for a minute
This is
and
too
then I
much.
can jump back in. I need to pull back. I need a minute.
That is so
So yeah, yeah, that's me for
yes.
sure. And I think, I was just kind of scrolling through the list of like of things that we want to talk about. And
Yep.
I know that our focus is like education related because I was going to ask you like what's one upcoming topic that you're excited about, but your conversation about like your social energy going down made me think about how as a parent, like I be touched out.
Yes.
Like that's the other battery though. Like
Ooh, the
I need
parent
everybody
battery.
to back up.
Mm.
So
And I
that's
think a
another
lot of
one
parents
too.
feel like so bad about like they feel like they're alone and like they're such a bad. And it's like no, no, especially if you are a working parent. And nowadays both parents are working in the
Yeah.
household because of the economy. So it's not uncommon and it's definitely okay to feel like okay, I my brain overload. I can't right now. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap it up,
Yes.
what is an upcoming topic that you're excited about?
Oh my goodness. I think I'm very excited about discussing mental health in the education field from both students, parents, and educators.
Mm.
Discussing that platform because it's not discussed enough.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm excited about community building
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm excited to like get out in the community and like film my kids doing like, going on doing some activities, going on field trips, or going to places we go every day and figuring out
Yes.
how to like throw in those educational components and building relationships with people because that's what I do for a living. So I'm excited to talk about like the community that we can build
Okay.
in Central Florida around our kids. Because one thing that I realized was missing, or at least I didn't see it, was like a Black History guide for the kids. And I'm like, dang, how did maybe somebody made it and I didn't see it, but I'm definitely gonna have to
Mhm.
come up with something next year. Like today we went to see Giraffes Can't Dance at Orlando Family State. So that was real cool. But like we gotta start that early, especially
Okay.
living in Florida
Come
where,
on.
they don't want you to talk about nothing. So we gotta start the Black History
Come
education real
on.
early.
Yes.
So yeah, but that's what I'm like, we need a family guide for Black History Month
I
though.
love that. Yes. And even for like recommending books and stuff that they can even get in
Yeah.
their homes, programs that maybe even can, and I know you know a lot of programs, so we can talk about that. Hmm.
Yeah, well, thank y'all for joining, listening,
Yes.
watching, tuning in to episode 1.
Mhm.
And yeah, we'll be back when we figure out how frequently we're gonna do this.